So good morning to each and everyone. Before we start, I would like to introduce myself first. I am Naifarin Dinalon, and I am the first reporter of this topic. So our topic for today is all about the biodiversity in a healthy society. So in this section, nakafocus ito sa interconnection among society, environment, and health. So it tackles the value of biodiversity as a source of food, medicine, and other biological resources in relation to the consumption of goods. So biodiversity. Biodiversity is defined as the variety of life present in an ecosystem. So ang biodiversity is yun daw yung iba't ibang uri ng life or buhay sa isang ecosystem. And mahalaga ang biodiversity dahil nakikinabang dito ang lipunan or society. So there are three different types of biodiversity, which are the genetic, species, and ecological system. So first is the genetic biodiversity. So it refers to the variation among organisms of the same species. So ang genetic biodiversity is ito daw yung pagkakaiba ng mga organisms. So these variations are usually passed down from parents to offspring. So namamana yung pagkakaiba ng organism. Just for example, human hair color. So meron tayong vast range of hair colors which are the blonde, brown, red, and etc. So within the human species is a result of genetic variation. So these variations are due to different alleles or yung version of genes that affect melanin production. Next is the species diversity. It refers to the variety of species within a particular region. So dito naman is nakafocus siya sa iba't ibang species sa isang lugar. So ang species diversity ay naapektuhan ng kapaligiran. Species are the normal measure of biodiversity. For these are the basic units of biological classification. And lastly, ecological diversity. So it refers to the network of different species in an ecosystem and the interaction of these species. So ito naman yung mga ugnayan ng iba't ibang species sa isang ecosystem. So example, a mountain range with varying altitudes. So yung mountain range is nagpapakita ito ng ecological diversity due to the changes of climate and vegetation at different altitudes. Yung lower slopes might be forested, while yung higher elevation might be alpine, meadows, or rocky areas. So, lahat nila ay may sariling distinct species assemblage. So, generally, society benefits greatly from the richness of biodiversity dahil dito nanggagaling ang ating pagkain, gamot, energy, and etc. And nakakatulong ang biodiversity sa pagkontrol ng climate, flood, water storage, at pag-recycle ng basura. However, these numerous benefits of biodiversity is nanganganib na dahil sa pagsasamantala ng mga tao. So, dapat maging responsible ang tao sa paggamit ng biodiversity through the proper utilization of science and technology. That's all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My topic is all about health and medicine. So you know how people have been using plants for medicine for a really long time, right? Well, herbal medicine goes way back like thousands of years. So even in ancient times, people were using plants like cypress and myrrh to help with things like coughs and swelling. They even used plants and rituals to heal people and to treat injuries from wars or accidents. The kinds of plants they used depended on what grew in their area, so different places have their own special remedies. So let's look at some specific example of how people use plants for medicine. So California sage was used by Native Americans to help with childbirth and to make their bodies stronger against illness. Camel thorn, a desert plant, produces a sweet substance called manna, and this manna was used to treat things like diarrhea, asthma, and even nasal polyps. And then there's cottage lavage, which people believe could help with problems related to the uterus and could also help with gas and make you feel more alert. Many of the medicines we use today actually come from plants. So aspirin, for example, is made from willow bark. And then morphine, a strong painkiller, is made from the opium poppy, and digitoxin, which is used to treat heart problems, comes from the foxglove plant. So even though we have a lot of modern medicines, plants still play a very important role. Antibiotics are a big deal in medicine. They were first tested in 1938 and they revolutionized how we treat infections. But just like anything else, bacteria can become resistant to antibiotics, which means the antibiotics don't work as well anymore. So scientists keep looking for new types of antibiotics and they found some in the 1970s. A lot of these new antibiotics came from tiny organisms like fungi and bacteria that live in all sorts of places, even in trees, grasses, and algae. There have been some really important new medicines developed in recent years. In 1994, a medicine called pilocarpine was approved to help people with dry mouth. Then, in 1998, a medicine was approved to treat Sjogren's syndrome, which is an autoimmune disease that affects the glands in your body. And in 2004, quinine, a drug from the cinchona tree, was approved to treat malaria. This shows that scientists and doctors are always looking for new ways to fight diseases and help people get better.
So this is the continuation of our topic. The next is food. Food is the basic need for human survival. So tama naman kasi if we don't have food, paano naman tayo magbuhay, di ba? Ang mga foundation ng lahat ng iba pang aspect ng buhay such as wala kang trabaho, libangan, or relasyon ay magiging possible kung patay ka na dahil sa gutom. During the Stone of Age, human relied on hunting and foraging to get food. So wala pang agriculture noon. That's why kung yung kanilang kaligtasan ay nakasalalay lang kung ano ang mahanap nila sa kanilang paligid. They depend on what the ecosystem could really provide them. So yung kanilang pagkain ay direct na nakasalalay sa kalusugan and balance ng kanilang surroundings. Kung may scarcity sa mga hayop o halaman, magugutom sila. So dito pinapakita ang malapit na connection ng tao at kalikasan noon. The next is, as the Earth population grew, the demand for food increased. So dito naman is isang simple na concept ng supply and demand. Mas maraming tao, mas maraming pagkain ang kailangan. Crops that can be grown were discovered and cultivated, and animals were domesticated. So ito na yung simula ng revolution ng agriculture or isang malaking pagbabago sa kasaysayan ng tao. Ang pagtanim at pag-aalaga ng hayop ay nagbigay ng mas stable at predictable na pinagkukunan ng pagkain. Throughout the history, agriculture and cultivation involved from picking desirable crops and breeding animals. So this process lasts thousands of years. The increasing demand for food as the world population grew also result in the development of more lands from agriculture. So ang pagpapalawak ng mga sakahan ay nagdulot ng deforestation at pagkasira ng mga tirahan ng mga hayop. Ito ay isa sa mga challenges ng pagpapakain sa lumalaking population sa mundo. Farmers and fishermen rely on healthy ecosystem from their livelihood. So ang kanilang hanapbuhay ay direct na nakasalalay sa kalusugan ng kapaligiran. So ang pollution pagkasira ng tirahan at climate change ay malaking effect sa kanilang kabuhayan. So the benefits of biodiversity and necessary for the growth of many important crops. Since ang biodiversity is ang pagkakaiba-iba ng mga buhay ng organisms sa isang lugar, meaning ang pagkakaiba ay mahalaga para sa pollination, pagkontrol ng peste, at pagpapanatili ng kalusugan sa lupa. Agrobiodiversity is the result of careful selection and innovation developments by farmers, fishers, and herders throughout the years. So ito ay tumutukoy sa pagkakaiba ng mga pananim at hayop na ginagamit sa agricultures. Ang agrobiodiversity ay mahalaga para sa secured sa pagkain at pagbagay sa climate change. Yun lamang.
Good day, I am Ronald S. Rojas. The topic was given to me is energy and water storage and flood control. Early energy, humans initially relied on fire and natural resources. Water, wine, coal emerged in 1000 BC. Ang mga tao ay umaasa sa energy sources na binibigay ng mga ecosystem upang gawin ang mga kinakailangang activity upang mabuhay. Sa panahon ng Stone Age, apoy ang pangunahing ginagamit para safetyness pangontra sa malamig na panahon. Ginagamit din ito sa pagluto at para sa komunikasyon sa pamamagitan ng usok sa mga kalapit na tribo. Noong 1000 BC, ang coal o carbon bilang pinagkukunan ng enerhiya ay ginagamit ng mga tao sa northeastern China para sa pagpapainit at pagluluto. The next is Industrial Revolution. Coal became dominant, transforming societies but causing pollution. All electricity and later nuclear power followed. The modern concerns, while past energy use didn't directly deplete biodiversity, modern energy production has significant environmental consequences. Major disasters, 3 Mile Island, Exxon Valdez, Fukushima, and highlighted the risk. Increased energy demand causing pollution, habitat loss, and affects biodiversity. Sustainable energy solutions are crucial. Sa panahon ng Industrial Revolutions, noong 1700s at 1800s, pinalitan ng carbon o ng coal ang biomass bilang pangunahing pinagkukunan ng energy source in the way of making oil, electricity, at maging ang nuclear plant. Ang coal at iba pang mga pinagkukunan ng enerhiya o ng energy ay nag-ambag sa industry ng mga bansa. Mula sa pagunlad ng paggamit ng mga mapagkukunan ng enerhiya sa buong kasaysayan, makikita na walang direkta o hindi direktang pagkaubos ng biodiversity sa paggamit ng mapagkukunan ng energy sources. Mula sa pag-aaral na sinagawa ni Jones, Pecher at Kesekir 2015 ay nagulat ng mga epekto ng pangangailangan ng lipunan para sa malinis at masaganang enerhiya sa biodiversity o kapaligiran, at ang mga pangangailangan para sa energy ay lumikha ng isang positibong epekto at nagresulta rin ito ng negative effect sa biodiversity sa pamamagitan ng pagkamatay ng mga wildlife, pagkawala ng tirahan, pagkakaroon ng ingay at light pollution, invasive species, at mga pagbabago sa carbon stock at yamang tubig. Okay, so let us now proceed to the water storage and flood control. Historical water management, early civilization relied on rivers and lakes. The discovery of groundwater led to wells. Aqueducts transported water to distant communities, while dams later managed water supply and irrigation. Forests and water forests are crucial for water resources management. They naturally filter water, improve soil infiltration, and regulate water cycles, supporting biodiversity. We all know that aqueducts were an essential structure in ancient civilizations, serving as lifelines for water supply. They were designed to transport water from distant sources, like rivers or springs, to cities and towns. Sinasala nila ang tubig at pinapabuti ang pagpasok ng lupa, at kinokontrol ang mga cycle na tubig they also supporting biodiversity. The last one is flooding. While flooding can sometimes distribute nutrients, it's mostly damaging. Climate change and inadequate infrastructure exacerbate the negative impacts of flooding on both urban and rural areas. And that's all for my report. Thank you so much.
Air and water treatment. Air and water treatment is a process that removes contaminants and bacteria from water and air to make them safe for consumption or use. Water treatment removes contaminants and bacteria from water. It makes it safe drink. The goal is to provide water that is safe, pleasant, and cost-effective. Air purification uses catalytic pollutants. Here are some water treatment processes that use air. Aeration brings air into contact with water to remove gases and volatile compounds and to oxidize dissolved metals. Aeration is often the first major process in drinking water treatment plants, and it's a part of the secondary treatment plants. Dissolved air pollution, DFA, clarifies wastewater by compressing air. Process includes filtration, seepings, collations, chlorination, ultrafiltration, and ozone or UV light. And this is me, Ayman Abubakar Iskak. Thank you po.
Protocol on Biodiversity. Strengthening the implementation of global protocols like the Montreal, Kyoto, and Cartagena protocols is essential to protect biodiversity. The Cartagena Protocol, adopted in 2000 and enforced in 2003, focuses on the safe handling of living modified organisms. In 10 Pacific countries, ensuring facilities, laws, and technologies are in place to monitor LMOs link the Convention on Biological Diversity. It safeguards Pacific communities and ecosystems. Locally, strict enforcement of environmental laws is needed to prevent biodiversity loss from air and water pollution, while ensuring pollution treatment methods do not shift pollution between environmental systems. A Protocol on Biodiversity is a formal international agreement aimed at protecting the environment and ensuring the sustainable use of biological resources. It establishes rules and guidelines for addressing specific biodiversity-related issues such as conservation, safe use of biotechnology, or equitable sharing of genetic resources. Examples include the Cartagena Protocol, which regulates genetically modified organisms, and the Nagoya Protocol, which deals with access to genetic resources and benefit sharing.